Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Rust Belt Collector here once again with an action figure related review. Today we are taking a look at the Walmart exclusive Imperial Clone Shock Trooper. Definitely one of the figures that was highly anticipated from, I would say, 90% of the collecting community, even though it was a Walmart exclusive. This one came in, and it actually came in with relative ease. This one didn't get pushed back or anything. I got it the same day as my Imperial Crosshair, so I got this nice little bundle of packages from Walmart. And yeah, there we go. I mean, that's pretty easy. I appreciate that. So this figure is, of course, another installment of the Bad Batch series line. So it's in that nice, like, deep wine red. I really love that color. Looks really nice with that mural with the flying gunships in the background. It looks absolutely sick. I love that. This is the new Clone Trooper mold, so, you know, it is kind of standard if you're familiar with the Kamino Clone Trooper or the Ahsoka Clone Trooper or any of the iterations that we are getting or have already gotten. It's a good mold, and we'll go over that in more detail. Here on the back, you can read the bio if you so desire. Overall, just standard Black Series packaging. It's what we've come to expect, and even though this is an exclusive, it still stacks up next to existing characters in the main line. It doesn't. I was wrong. What do I know? I don't know anything. This must be Captain Rex's elbow, and I'm guessing this is the Imperial officer. I can't remember what his name is, like Harkin or something like that. I don't know. So Captain Rex, which I did not manage to get. I'm very disappointed about that. And the Imperial guy, which I also didn't get, though that was a choice. I just didn't want the figure. So yeah, it doesn't stack up with tech the way that I thought. It stacks up with Captain Rex, and you know, I'm not going to complete the mural on these guys. I'm not going to be a completionist with a Black Series line, but it still is cool, and I appreciate the people that do, and then they post pictures of that mural because it looks really nice. And if they decide to ever release like a full-length poster of all those, I would probably go ahead and buy that. I think that would be pretty dope. Like a nice panorama, you know, picture, poster, printed out thing, however you want to say it. It'd be pretty cool. I would buy that, but I'm not going to buy every single figure because I'm not into Black Series as much as I used to be. I get the ones that I really, really want, and the rest I have to let them go because I can't go completionist with a 6-inch line and try and collect 4-inch Halo and 4-inch Star Wars. So yeah, you got to pick and choose your battles. If you're collecting these days, just try and focus on what you really, really want to complete, and the other lines, just don't worry about them. But anyways, let's break this figure open and take a look at the figure inside. And here he is, all out of the packaging. He looks absolutely stunning. The shade of red is a nice choice. It's nice and vibrant, but it might be like a shade lighter than the Order 66 4-pack Shock Trooper, so it may not match up perfectly, but I think if you had him in a lineup, this guy and the Order 66 guys and Commander Fox, I think they would look really, really nice together, so I don't think there's going to be an issue there, but it's not a direct match. Unfortunately, I don't have those here to compare it. I just don't have those anymore, unfortunately. Kind of circumstantial things came up, and I had to let those go. They were kind of like the bottom of the list in terms of things that I would let go if I needed to part with certain elements of my collection. So the Shock Troopers and Commander Fox went, and lo and behold, I have nothing to compare these to. So that's unfortunate. Maybe someday I'll be able to reacquire those, but with the Shock Trooper prices these days, I'm probably better off just buying a bunch of these and peeling that like Pauldron off, and then I'd have a couple different versions of the Shock Trooper. Then they would all match at least, so I mean, there's that. But anyways, I digress. The color is still very nice, even if it may not match directly with the previous releases. This figure is, of course, on the new Clone Trooper mold, as I mentioned, so it's got some really nice elements of articulation, though the knee pads will be attached to the thigh, which is one of my biggest gripes with this figure mold. It's great in pretty much every other version or every other aspect, but except those knee pads. And you know, if I'm going to be really nitpicky, I could say the helmet is a little bit off. The older sculpt was definitely better than this one, but I don't hate this one. It works. It's serviceable. They've improved it from the first release where it was all warped out of shape and everything, and for now, this definitely is serviceable and still really nice to be getting. Really, any Clone Trooper releases at this point in collecting are nice, even if they're maybe not perfect. I think if you want really high quality detail, then you're going to have to go with like Hot Toys collectibles or something, but for this, for what it is, it's serviceable. It's not perfect, but it's serviceable. In terms of accessories, he comes with the long DC-15 rifle, And yeah, it's the same sculpt we've gotten before. However, this time it seems to be cast in like a slightly metallic plastic. Like maybe they've added some little metallic bits into it because it has a little bit of a sparkle. Kind of reminds me of those old DC-15s from the 3 3/4 inch line that came with like the Attack of the Clones figures, I think, where they had that sparkle because they had little metal flakes in them. So that's actually kind of a cool little feature. They seem to have added that with this particular DC-15. And then of course he comes with the DC-15 Carbine, same sculpt as before, slightly scaled down from earlier releases. And yeah, nothing really exciting to talk about there. It's the same thing we've gotten. Now for the figure, it looks so cool. Like maybe it's just me, maybe it's just getting a clone trooper in stores or even online. Again, maybe I'm just kind of suckered into it, you know, like they're not releasing enough clone troopers, and so any clone trooper they release, I just like inherently enjoy. Maybe it's that, but also maybe it's just a cool clone trooper. We may never know. As people have mentioned, this figure definitely blends together the Battlefront 2 clone trooper model as well as the Clone Wars clone trooper model, because I would say from the neck down, this is a Battlefront 2 clone trooper. It is pretty much identical to the models you see in the Battlefront 2 game, the new one, not the old classic 2005 version. And then the head definitely mimics some of the Clone Wars animation style, especially with the unpainted like forehead band there. It's hard to see exactly what they're going for. I can kind of understand it, but it's curious. It's very, very curious to say the least. Also in the animated style is the Pauldron, which is okay because Captain Rex's Pauldron was animated, although it's been kind of made clear that this is an interpretation of the classic Revenge of the Sith style Pauldron, so if the Black Series was meant to be a truly realistic interpretation, then that should be the other style of Pauldron. But you know, it's okay. We can move past that. These are, you know, these are just toys and they're meant to represent characters we see on screen, and it's not like the designers should be like going out of their way to interpret it one way or the other. For those that may be wondering though, it isn't the same Pauldron that we got with Captain Rex. Captain Rex's is definitely larger, it's untextured, and it also has the little ammo pouches, whereas this one has various textures running across the colored portions, and it's slightly smaller. So it's definitely a new sculpt or a new mold, but it is same style, the Clone Wars style Pauldron. And these guys actually, even though they're different clone molds, this is obviously the Captain Rex mold, and this is the new Camino mold, they still look pretty good together. Like, I think these work well together on a shelf or, you know, display, toy photography, whatever you might be doing with them. I've seen some people griping that like the realistic and the also realistic but slightly different interpretation, they just don't mix together and they don't want them in their collection together. I'm not that pressed about it. I think they look really nice. They're clone troopers. Unfortunately, I'm a sucker and I love having more clone troopers in my collection, whatever the mold may be. I guess also worth noting is that this isn't technically a shock trooper. This is the shock trooper commander, and so his little dashes there on the helmet are slightly shorter than a standard version. You can see that in the Clone Wars series, and so whether that's an animation error or whether that was intentional, we may never know, but it's something to make note of. You know, if you remove this Pauldron, those are technically too short to be shock troopers. If it really matters to you, it may not, but it's worth noting. Okay, so I am filming this after the fact of recording my initial review for this guy. I got my second one in here and I took it out of the packaging, and this was literally like falling off. Like you can see there really wasn't really any glue attaching it to the figure itself. So for those that might be wondering about how good these guys would be as like semi-army builders, like having multiple, so you could have the commander and you could have shock troopers just without the Pauldron, I'm going to say it's pretty easy because this was literally just like falling off of the guy when I took it out of the packaging, popped the head off, took this off, wasn't an issue. You can see it didn't mess up any of the paint or anything like that. It is glued up at like the white portion of the armor above the red, so I could be wrong, but it almost feels like Hasbro actually thought a little bit ahead there and was like, yeah, people are going to buy these for army builders, let's not totally ruin the possibility of that. And they made it more accessible as an army builder, even though it is a Walmart exclusive, I will admit. So I'm pretty excited. Having one that's just a normal trooper now is pretty awesome, and if I can find another one online, I probably will get a third just to have two troopers. If I can't, then maybe I'll find it on store shelves. But yeah, These guys are definitely army buildable, if that's the way you want to put it. The pauldron is removable, doesn't have a lot of glue attaching it to the actual body, so I mean, yeah, you could use this for a lot of customs as well if you felt so inclined. It just opens the door to a lot of different possibilities, and I think that's awesome. And we now return you to your regularly scheduled review of this guy. As for the articulation though, double ball joint, head and torso. With the pauldron though, there's a little bit of a limitation there, so you can't really get much forward and back. You can still look side to side okay, and you can't really get any tilt there, but you know, it has the articulation that you need out of a head joint. Then down at the shoulders, you have the forward and back butterfly, as well as the flexible plastic shoulder pads, which allow you to, even with the pauldron, to flex it over there and get it to a 90-degree angle there. And then just past 90 on the elbows, which are single jointed, hinge and swivel, and very, very squeaky. But yeah, those work really well. I love those single jointed joints there. They work really, really well on these new figures. And then hinge and the swivel at the wrist, all the way around, up and down there, in and out on this hand, and then a ball joint at the torso, all the way around, forward, back crunch, side to side. Now, a quick note about the torso, if you're really bothered about the way that it sits a little bit too high, like there's a little bit too much of a gap here, sits a little bit high here, there are some videos online on YouTube where you can pop these guys apart, lower that peg inside of there, and then reattach them together, and the body sits a lot lower, and I will admit it definitely looks a lot better. It looks closer to this body mold style, and it's a good improvement. It's not something I've attempted yet. It's just not something that I guess I'm all that worried about with my clone troopers. So, you know, again, it just comes down to your personal preference of how you want your clone troopers to look. Then down to the hips, we have the ball joint and the thigh swivel as usual. So you can swivel that forward. You can swivel the hinge and swivel knee down into a pretty good kneeling position. Once again, love this mold for that particular reason. They can definitely get down into some really nice crouching positions, which is something that I look for with these figures, especially for toy photography. You can also splay the hips out to a pretty good split position. So again, these guys are very versatile in articulation. And like I said, down here at the knee, single jointed knee, so bend to there, side to side swivel. Still really cool, really nice. And then down here at the ankle, point to there, forward to there, and a side-to-side rocker. So yeah, you know, standard articulation for this mold. We've already seen it a couple times now, and I'm sure that we will see it many, many times to come in the future. I'm not exactly upset about that. I think that this is a really pretty decent articulated mold to have going forward. It might not be the best mold that we've ever seen. I think that the Captain Rex mold is definitely up there with the best clone trooper molds, at least in 6-inch Black Series. But this is a decent successor, and I think that it works for what it's going for, especially since the designs thus far have been interpretations of animated Clone Wars characters. We're probably never going to see another animated series of figures. We would really like to see that, but I don't think that that is going to happen anytime soon. So until then, I think that this is a decent middle ground, kind of interpreting some of the elements of animation and some of the elements of realism, merging them together and giving us this, which, if you love Clone Troopers, you're happy with this. Again, it may not be perfect, but the customizers out there can make it perfect if you really are that concerned about things like the torso or the pauldron or the headband there on the helmet. But such as it is, if you're an out-of-box collector or maybe an in-box collector, I still think this is a really nice pickup, especially for Clone Trooper collectors and just fans of the Bad Batch in general. It's an awesome figure, really looks cool in the collection, especially lined up with other Shock Troopers, which I can't do, but I wish I could. I'm sure there's other reviewers on YouTube, like maybe JCC2224, that will showcase it with the other troopers that would match up with it, but alas, I cannot. So that's all we can do for this review today. We can show you the figure. I give it 2 thumbs up. It's a cool clone trooper. And yes, I just made up the 2 thumbs up rating system, which will never be used again in a review video. So there you go. We're wrapping this review up, but if you want to stay in touch with the channel, you can do so by subscribing. You can also do it by following the link in the bio or in the description to the link tree. It takes you to my Facebook, my Instagram, I guess now my Twitch as well, but you can find social media down there if you want to follow me over there. I do toy photography as well as in my Instagram. I often try to post new figure reveals and stuff like that, so if you want to keep up with that, you can do so there. But thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful evening, noon, or night. Be kind to one another, and as always, I will catch you all in the next video.